Hi, thanks for joining me for another walk through a gardening book. Whether it's books I've found at the library or pulled from my growing collection, I talk about the content and the design. Both of these can change over the years. Gardening advice can become outdated or change significantly, and design trends definitely come and go. So it's fun to go back and see if the book holds up information-wise and design-wise. So let's dive in. We're going to start off with a relatively newer book. This is called My Tiny Garden, authored by Lucy Anna Scott, with Lucy Conochie, and I apologize if I say your name wrong, who does these wonderful how-tos. We'll talk about them in this. And photography by John Cardwell. It was published in 2016 by Pavilion, who are a UK publisher. So you would assume that this would be gardening in the UK, English cottage gardens, but that's not the case. There are a variety of gardens throughout mainly urban spaces. There's New York, there's San Francisco, Europe, and in Tokyo. I really like this book a lot. I found it to be very interesting. I am all about gardening for small spaces. Most of the years that I've spent gardening have been in smaller spaces, so relying on lots of containers, planters, some raised beds. That's been my experience with a lot of gardening. And so I always love books like this to show people that anybody can do it. And you don't need a giant ton of space. You don't need a huge backyard. You don't need acres. You can garden with just a few containers, with just a minimal amount of space. So let's get into it. It's a great book. So talk about the cover first. Hardcover. I love this book. I love hardcover gardening books. You can see it's very nice. Very lovely. It's a great picture. It's actually a close-up of a picture that's in the interior of the book. I found I was drawn to other photos in the book. So I wished those had been on the cover, but I get this. I think it's a really great looking picture. And back cover, kind of what you're in for. Lots of different containers, lots of different spaces. It's a little blurb. It's great. It's very lovely. Alrighty, so let's open this bad boy up. I hope I don't squish my flowers. So this is what's called end paper, this interior section, and you'll see different books handle this different ways. I like usually gardening books or any sort of design books will put something in the end paper. I love this little botanical illustration. I think that's really nice. It's subtle, and it fits with the book. It fits with the minimalist interior of the book, and we'll see that in a minute. But I really like that this has this nice illustration. We'll see in other books. Sometimes the end paper can get very elaborate. Alrighty, so title page, love it. I love the font that they chose. I think this is a really nice typeface. It's clean. It's not ornate. It's not distracting from the photos or the information, because that's what you're in this book for. So I like the fact that this is really clean, simple, easy to read. Alrighty, now we have our copyright page. As you can see, Pavilion, 2016. Something interesting that doesn't usually happen on a copyright page is the acknowledgments, the thank yous. I guess they wanted to put it up here. Not sure why. I think it's an interesting place, but something different than what you would normally see. Nice clean table of contents. You can see our chapter headings, high-rise havens, size here, 0 heroes, bijou backyards, compact co-ops, street side style, nurturing nooks, delights in shade. And all of those are things that I've had to work with over the years. So I appreciate the detail on those different subsections. So let's talk about this intro page. This intro page is fabulous. I love this introduction page. This comes from one of the co-op gardens that you see later on. I think it's stunning. I personally would have loved to have seen this on the cover. Because if that cover is facing out, you're going to see that and wonder what is going on in that book. I need to look at this book. So, but you know, that's me. That's my personal way of designing something. Intro. It's a great little intro. It's not very long, but it really kind of gets into the point of these are small spaces. Especially urban spaces don't have a lot of room to garden. And so how do people bring nature into those urban spaces? And you'll see every title page has another really big photo, just like our introduction page, with the chapter title. So very nice. Like I said, very clean. So this is, an example of like a typical page where they have done a little bit of an interview with the homeowner or the renter. They have tried to take some overarching shots, either from above or sort of like a depth of field, and then close-ups. And there's usually a picture of the gardener. I like the fact that they don't just talk about like why they did it, but they actually talk about like specific plants. Why did I choose these plants in particular over other plants? I really appreciate that sort of information given because it can help you as you set up your garden. So it's really great. And on the next page, this is one of the how-tos. There are numerous how-tos. I've actually never seen this many how-tos in a gardening book that looks like this. That is sort of more of a general overview on gardening. And I love that addition. I love the fact that they have added that in there. So this is all about night scented pots, which is a big thing for me. I love doing night scented gardens. These are flowers that tend to open up in the late afternoon, early evening. Most of them actually also tend to be very fragrant because as the light is dimming, there's the pollinators picking up the last bits of nectar and pollen for the night. And it's their sense of smell is going to attract them rather than the diminishing light. And so these are plants that just smell beautiful. Evening primrose is one that smells really great. The tobacco plants, the one I tend to have in the backyard is jasmine tobacco. There's also, there's a night scented phlox or an evening phlox. There's a night scented stock. There's datura, which is a striking, like trumpety shaped flower. But I love doing a night scented garden. I think it's fun. So this one's great. You can see that you have a lot of like really nice up close pictures of the plants, step-by-step instructions on how to set up whatever it is the how-to is talking about. But also this is super important too, aftercare and tips. So make sure talks about watering or talks about the sun or talks about maybe feeding and fertilizing or when they're blooming and what you should do and when should you deadhead. And then they also include other plants to try. So Lucy C. is the one that wrote all of these how-tos. Her garden is actually featured later on in the book. So it's great. This one's interesting. These two people actually live on a barge in London, but they have a very robust, substantial container garden. Lots of indoor plants. They actually even have outdoor plants. You can see from the pictures. Lots of succulents. But even here, up on their deck, they have a lot of plants. It's fascinating. So they really kind of try to push the boundaries of what you think of when you are thinking about gardening in a smaller space. So these are backyards. These are going to be a little bit bigger. You have a little bit more space, but not what we think of as a sprawling suburban backyard, right? This one's lovely. This is interesting. So vertical planting. Vertical is huge when you have a small space. And I like that they feature a couple different ways. We'll see another version of it later on. So this is anything with shallow roots. These are wall planters attached right to the brick. And you want something that has like either shallow roots or can tolerate sort of more arid or dry conditions. Just because they're not going to be in the ground. They're not going to be able to retain the moisture that something in the ground or in a deeper pot would be able to do. So it's a great idea. And again, this is the how-to. So we have lots of pictures, lots of close-up pictures too on how to do it and our aftercare and tips. So compact co-ops are places, urban places, and it's not just community gardens where everybody has their own individual plot and they're just doing their own thing. These are really like cooperative movements within communities, within neighborhoods. And they split it up in the middle, but there's our really cool old sofa used as a giant planter. I'm not sure how that works. I would be very curious to see it in person. But I love that they really tried to highlight people working together within one plot rather than everybody doing their own little community garden, their own little community spot. I love when you can get kids and adults and older adults all in the same spot working together. That's just always been a favorite of mine. So now we're at street side style. This one is different. This one is very different. This is people who are taking the front of their houses or the front of their property and doing something with it. Like this woman, she decided that it was all stone pavers. And so she decided to use the cracks in between the pavers as a way to grow things, which is very interesting. I don't know if the municipality she is in is okay with that, because a lot of those kinds of things would spread. But I love the idea of this, bringing green and growth to wherever you may be living. This is a parklet. This one specifically is in the Mission District in San Francisco. And it is created in pavement space designed and used by the public, but it is funded by the homeowner or some sort of private entity. So it's something that you put out in front, but can be enjoyed and used by everyone. Nurturing nooks. So this kind of plays off of the idea of therapeutic horticulture. And therapeutic horticulture is getting into the garden, and the garden becomes a space for people to be able to do the difficult work of healing, whether it is physical therapy, whether it is occupational therapy, whether it is mental health. if you're in a wheelchair, if you have vision issues, it doesn't matter. These are all, you can create spaces where everybody can get in and everybody can not just enjoy the garden, but get their hands into it, get their fingers into it, dig around in it, and make things better. Pardon me, my cat is being crazy right now. So, I love being able to use a space to create a place where people can grow some food, grow some herbs, grow some flowers, and be able to access it and be able to grow for themselves if they want, grow for their community if they want. So that's something that actually I am looking to dive into more in my Master Gardener program. Oh, and then she also lumps in people who are trying to grow more like pollinator-friendly gardens, which if you are interested in a pollinator-friendly garden, you can, there's the Pollinator Pathways organization, which is encouraging home gardeners and community groups to plant and grow more natives in their area. Oh, and here she is, Lucy C. Here's her garden. So you can see she's the one with these vertical planters up here. She has, so you can see lots of containers there. She has a little bit of garden space, but she really loves this like naturalistic sort of wild feeling cottage garden. She uses a lot of plants that are natives or that are very pollinator friendly, that encourage bees and insects to come in and make things healthy, make things grow. And there she is. I'd love to talk to her at some point. Our last section is Delights in the Shade. This was another thing that I have dealt with a lot over the years. So say you're in a space where there's a lot of trees around you, or in Philly, there's a lot of taller buildings around you. And so how do you grow within those kinds of conditions where maybe you have a lot of deep shade? Maybe you have a lot of dappled shade because of the leaves. Maybe you have sun in the morning, but then the rest of the day it's all shade. So how do you deal with those kinds of issues? And so there's several gardeners, a lot of planters. How do you garden when you don't have full sun? I love this little how-to because this is something that's always fun. So a tiny pond garden, which I have seen numerous versions of this over the years. It's a whiskey half barrel that does not have a drain plug. Sometimes it is lined with like a pond or a pool liner. And then plants are sunken down. They're weighed down with rocks, but left in planters. So that's an interesting, that's like a fun little activity you could do in your backyard. My only caveat to that is you want to make sure that there's a way for any small mammals or any amphibians that may happen to wander in. A lot of people will make a pond and then all of a sudden they have frogs. And you might get an occasional chipmunk or something like that. And so you want to make sure that they have a way, if it is not sunken into the ground, you want to make sure that there is a way for them to be able to get out so that they are not stuck in the water and drown. Here's another version of the vertical planting. This is really cool. It's very, this is very DIY, right? Which I love. That's great. Use up all the things that you have. That's a great place for, so see he has some greens, some herbs, and it's just super simple. But if you have a very small space and you're interested in growing some things, think about vertical planting. There's tons of resources online. If people are interested, I could always do a little series on them. It's really cool. And then I love this one. This is the last one in the book. Lovely woman lives in Tokyo and just a dark, dark backyard. So what she did was she brought in a lot of plants. So it's a lot of plants, not a lot of flowers, but she has a lot of plants with like brighter green leaves or silvery edged leaves. Some have maybe some like little white flowers that come out every so often. But like there's ways to bring light to a dark garden with just foliage. And that's a whole nother series that we could do and we could talk about. And then last page. Okay, so we have our bios. We have some resources. They tend to be almost all in the UK, obviously, because this is a UK published book. I am sad that there's no index. I love an index. You will probably think I'm crazy after a while, but an index is so hugely important when you're working in garden books. Because if I wanted to look up like, oh, does anybody have a lilac in a container? I want to be able to do that. Which, spoiler alert, you can do it. I've done it. It's pretty easy, and you just need the sort of smaller mini lilacs. But it's impossible for me to, I'd have to start leafing through and see if there's anything that even looks like a lilac. So there's no index. That makes me sad. People who publish gardening books, please put an index in. It just makes me happy, and it makes things easier to be able to look them up. I think it's a really well-designed book. I think it gives you a lot of new ways of thinking about how to garden in a smaller space or with limited space, using containers, using vertical planting, using just, sort of your imagination on and how to bring life into an urban setting. So this is a great book. I found this at the library. You might be able to find it at bookshop.org or on Thrift Books. I am going to be starting a garden wish list on Bookshop. And so that'll be a link to any of the books that I review if they have them for sale there. So I hope you enjoyed this. I had a lot of fun. I can't wait for the next 4 books that I have I'm so excited about. They are books by gentlemen in the UK who have really revolutionized naturalistic planning, cottage gardens, pollinator gardens, and just big names in gardening that you may have never heard of. So until then, peace out.